Yeah, thank you guys so much for the reminder on that. So I was kind of walking through a bit of my workflow, and I was just adding a file just to get something out there. This file backend slash foo. Um, I know most of the time when we've done commit messages, it's been with that -m flag because it's you keep them short and sweet in one line. If you don't add the -m, Git opens up in some editor a commit message. I believe that early on, many, if not most of you, configured your default editor for this to either be Nano or VS Code. Does that ring a bell, or is this a newer piece? And if it's a newer piece, no worries. It's actually like a one-line command to set this up. And it's not a big deal whether you do multi-line or one-line commit messages. It does, we can add some nice things if we want to here. This stuff is commented out. It doesn't appear in the commit message, but if I do this now, it will. If you were in the workplace, you might make a bigger commit message for each bit, like implemented like this and that, work in progress. And then when I save and quit the file, that commit is now made. And I'll go ahead and push this. And so the important piece here is I branched off the main branch. I made my feature branch. If you're going to use GitHub issues, use the number of the issue. It's not a bad idea. You can do it with Trello too. Just add a number manually and have the name of the branch try to correspond to the feature or the issue itself. Now that I've done that, here's the cool part. Git helps me out. It says compare and pull request. And if I hit this, it will create a pull request right away. And in fact, I recommend that this is what you do most of the time. I'm going to do the slightly longer method just to demo and explain it, where I go to pull requests and I hit new pull request. And remember, a Git merge has what's called a base branch, where this is where the changes are going. And this is where they're coming from. When I'm working on a feature, I'm merging from main onto my feature branch. When we're ready to share that feature with the rest of the team and merge it onto the main branch, we're merging from my branch onto the feature branch. So creating a pull request is always safe. It merges nothing. It's purely to help people see the code. So you should feel more than free to create pull requests, draft pull requests, stuff like that. It's only when you hit the merge that's part of the pull request that this happens. And the great thing about GitHub is if I just do number 2, I get the issue number, and then that becomes a link. And again, I can add, other team members and tag them here. You can also there are a ton of I'm sure an official GitHub Slack integration to get all of this as well. And if you guys are interested, I recommend looking into that. That can be a great way to do it. And that's what most teams do, where maybe there's a PR channel or just in your main channel. Every time someone makes a PR, that integration sends a little Slack messages with the link to the pull request itself. And you can see when they're merged and stuff like that. And in fact, if I think you all should be able to see and review this, I'll throw the link out there. I think you all should be able to add comments on this code, and if anyone wants to, go ahead and feel free. But this is where you could communicate and coordinate and stuff like that. When I hit merge is when this merge actually occurs. So I know, Robert, that was a bit of a longer answer to your question, but I wanted to demo some of this. There's a lot of really interesting stuff you can do with GitHub Actions in terms of automated tests and automatically pushing to AWS from the main branch at certain times and things like that. But that's just way more out of scope. The labels are useful and the tags are useful as well. So, but this is sort of the basic flow. Awesome. Right. Exactly. And you all should do this. Just like with the code demos, you want other people to review your code, especially if you don't have tests, because we want to find typos. And really the goal of the team is the pull request code review is for quality control and knowledge sharing and mentorship. Mentor junior developers if there's better things, knowledge share to make sure everyone understands the code if it relates to other things. If there's a discussion around like we want to use this kind of pattern instead of that one, it happens in the code review. And most of all, this stuff is just so complicated that like no one person can always spot all the things that come up, and getting as many sets of eyes on it as you can is part of it. And then you can in fact set rules in GitHub, and teams will set rules that you have to have at least 1 or 2 reviewers that approve before the code is merged. So I would really encourage all of you to have like a really robust code review process. It might be worth trying out just having everyone review each pull request. It depends on the dynamics, but I think like a minimum of 1 or 2. And then once it's approved, you hit merge, and companies sometimes control who does or does not have merge permissions. At most of the teams I've been on, it was simply understand the rule is you don't merge until you've gotten like the thumbs up from some other people on the team. So let me just pause and see if folks have any thoughts or questions. Yes, sir.
Hey, just a quick question. You mentioned git pull and git fetch earlier. What is the difference between the two? Does one like, can you just explain the difference real quick?
Yeah, git pull only does stuff on the branch you're on. It'll get the most recent branch. I'll demonstrate it right now, in fact. So I've merged this pull request. And in fact, I can see the open and close pull requests. And you can see I added this the other day to sort of show, you should give information on a pull request. And Eric will kind of get to git pull momentarily. I can see now on the main branch, right? All of these commits are there. But on my local repo, I don't have those because this all happened on the remote. I don't have those on the main branch. I did my work on the professor endpoint. Now it's time for the next feature. So I'm going to check out main and do git pull. And that pulls down the changes to main. Git fetch, I think, pulls down the changes to main, but if there are new branches that people have created, it also does those. So like when someone makes a new branch, you might need to run git fetch to get the new branch. I just sort of run git fetch often as a habit because it doesn't really hurt anything. Um, and
Um,
oh,
I,
please.
can I butt in real quick?
Yeah, absolutely.
So git fetch pulls those changes without merging. And all git pull is literally just git fetch, git merge, on main. So when you want to pull changes but not directly merge them, and a situation I guess that would satisfy something like this would be like you working on a team, many people are on like different branches, and you want to avoid like conflicts, or you want to merge like branches like exclusively and not all the branches. So you would do a git fetch, and then that will allow you to do that, where git pull would git fetch it, but also merge it, and that's where you can run into conflicts. But those are the two differences. Just remember, if you do git fetch, it's not going to merge. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, thank you. You broke it down really well, Dakota. Thank you for jumping in. And in fact, let's cause a merge conflict and see what that looks like. The goal is really to avoid these, but every now and then they're a normal part of the process, and they happen. So it's good to see. So just as a refresher, Dakota and I are going to use the assignment from yesterday, and we're going to run a quick demo. And then after that, you all are going to break up into groups for the other project, because I think that I sort of designed it so hopefully there won't be merge conflicts, but because we're all kind of learning the ropes, there might be one or two along the way. So as a quick refresher, we have a Flask app that's not doing a lot right now. We've got a made up student class, and a list of all students and a base route and some other things like that. And what Dakota is going to do in a minute is change the name of this all students variable that gets used in a bunch of places, and maybe like change a couple other lines of code. And then I'll get his changes and bring them onto my branch, where I'm doing some other stuff, and it'll cause a conflict. Before we dive into that, I want to very briefly talk about what a merge conflict is. Right? And coming back to this diagram with the flow that we just did of that tiny feature I did, we have just updated main, where it's the head of the main branch that's pointing to this. There aren't actually sort of duplicates of commits floating around, but the main branch essentially has this history now. Actually, I think I'll just leave that off and just leave it visually like that. And so what I indicated over here with these X's and Y's, and A1 and B2 and stuff like that is, like each one is meant to represent like changing a line of code. Like just think of it as like one line of code that's changed. And over here for B feature, there's two changes, like B1 and B2. X and Y are the changes. Maybe I just changed a print statement, like instead of hello, it says hello world now from the main branch. And like both on Dakota's branch and on my branch over on A, we have that stuff from the main branch. Dakota made some changes, and then he made this other change, A1, and that just represents, I just want to illustrate that he made a change that is like to the same line of code that I'm going to change. And that's where like the merge conflict is going to happen. Because if I try to merge his stuff from main onto my branch, what Git is doing under the hood is it kind of goes back in time to like the last common commit, and it compares the differences. And when it can match everything up, it says, great, awesome, things are good, X and Y. Everyone's on the same page with X and Y. B1, B2, Dakota changed those things. Adam didn't touch them. Perfect. I can figure that out. Like I Git can do that. Uh-oh, A1, there's nothing there on main. Dakota did something on like line 17 and Adam did too. I don't know what to do with this. There's a conflict. And so that's what a merge conflict is. And that's what we're about to make happen. And before we kind of do our little demo, I just want to pause and see if folks have any questions or thoughts. Cool. And Dakota, if you want to maybe do a little driving and I'll navigate, and just when you're ready, share your screen for the that assignment repo, and we'll make a branch and change a couple lines of code.
Yeah, no, that sounds good. I'm ready when you are.
Awesome. Yeah, please go ahead and share your screen. Cool.
You made a change, right?
I did, yeah. So please pull down the main branch. Yeah, and just go ahead and make a new branch off of it. And rename that all students on line 21. And throw in like a couple other changes. Maybe change the ping message on line 30 to something else. That should be a good conflict.
Oh, change it to what? I'm sorry.
Just change ping to like, yeah, perfect.
What's yeah?
Yeah, you'll need to change like all those other all student variables.
Yeah, let me. Is that all of them? Hopefully.
I think so. Nice. Yeah, if you do like a control F, you can check.
Yeah,
Um,
so
cool. And go ahead and inside the get students method, just add a print statement somewhere in there. And this is something that should not cause a conflict. So I want to demonstrate this as well. Beautiful.
is that good? Is there any more changes?
I think that looks great. I love it. Go ahead and commit it and push it. And in fact, then if you want to make a pull request, we'll merge it to main, and then I'll merge main onto a feature that I'll work on, and we'll see the conflicts.
Oh, did you want me to break out on a branch first and make those changes then and then push up?
Oh yeah, totally. What
I'm
branch are
still
we
on
on right
main.
now?
I'm still on main.
Oh, my apologies. No worries.
No, you're all good. Just copied it.
Perfect.
Oh, there you go.
Love it. Perfect. Yeah, and just add, commit, push. And I think you should have enough. You should have, yeah, perfect. Awesome. And in fact, I'll go ahead and add like a comment and approve or something right now, if you just want to
Yeah.
for a sec.
Also, I think we can probably highlight the protection rule. If you want to do that, but basically the protection rule allows you to protect the main branch. So this way no one on your team can just add it to the main on their own. You can have like whether it's like one person to sign off or two people sign off on it. So this way, like right now it doesn't really matter if I was on main or not, but if I had that protection branch, I would be protecting my source code, which is on main, which is what we're merging to. So when you're in big groups like that, that's a good like option to do, is to set up that protection branch on your source code.
Yeah, totally. That 100%. And to be honest, the only reason we haven't done that with some of our GitHub code platoon orgs is because we have to go register with GitHub as a nonprofit. Because they restrict that for like enterprise users. But for private, like personal repos, you all should be set and be able to do that on your own GitHub accounts. So I went ahead and added a thumbs up. And let's see, is it letting me review? Maybe I have to refresh my page. There we go. Let me add, actually, Dakota, if you don't mind, let me share my screen real quick. Perfect. So this is, you don't have to get to this through the review screen. And actually Dakota was showing this just now, but in the review, I have the diff here, you know, I can add comments. You kind of can and should do discussion around stuff here. And this is really where you want to ask questions to make sure that like you understand the code. And then the thumbs up or the classic looks good to me, which is what people see half the time. And I'm gonna approve. If I wanted to request changes, I could do that as well. And then actually, Dakota, if you don't mind hopping back onto the screen share and just go ahead and merge that sucker.
How did you split yours? I'm sorry.
Oh, that's a great question. Go to the pull requests to conversation. Oh, hit review changes over on the right. If you just hit the button itself, I think it goes to the diff, not like the little arrow, but like the click on the button.
What button? I'm sorry.
Same button, review changes, but it has like,
Oh,
yeah.
it just drops this
Yeah.
down.
I'm not gonna lie, GitHub has added so many features.
Okay, I'll figure it out. I just figured
Yeah,
maybe.
you could go back to
Um,
conversation maybe,
okay.
and
This looks
go to,
awesome. Approve these
yeah,
changes, and then we can actually see.
yeah.
Yeah,
It
we
might
can
be
see.
view review changes or the file. It's hiding somewhere in there. It's it. There is absolutely a way to do it. I'm not gonna lie. GitHub is amazing, but the user interface has gotten a lot more complex, and I'm actually not sure.
Yeah, no worries. I'll figure it out. But yeah, we can see your approved changes on it, and we can see where that change was, what file it was. Um, you know. And then yeah, usually like so Adam approved it. So if we did have a protection, it would then look like this because now we have one approval.
Yeah,
And then we can just merge it. What's it?
yeah,
What is this? Oh, okay.
yeah. You can also add rules so that you can't merge a pull request that isn't passing all the tests or passing like PyLinter rules or things like that. And a lot of teams do that as well. And if anyone's interested in that, that's great stuff to add. Yeah, and go ahead and merge when you're ready. I think if you go to files changed, by the way, I think that's where you can see the diff. Yeah, right there.
Okay, so now we're merged. Yeah, we go here.
No, that's weird. I see a diff when I go there. I um
Yeah, it's probably just how I'm viewing it. But it's merged. So if we go to the code, yeah, we can see me there. And then we can actually see when the branches was created and updated. So that's cool. Yeah, what else do you want me to show?
Um, this is great, man. Now I'm gonna pull down your changes on main and bring them onto my feature branch, and it's gonna cause a
Okay.
conflict.
Yeah,
Uh,
do your thing.
yeah, no, this is awesome. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And can everyone see my VS Code right now? Awesome. So, maybe I make another GitHub issue or we're using Trello or however we want to do it, but it's time to work on, let's say the next feature. And I'm on the main branch. I have not pulled down Dakota's changes and I'm not going to on main because let's pretend that, Dakota was working on this hard all day, right? And then, at the end of the day, he wrapped it up and merged it to main and it was good to go. Earlier in the day, I started work on something else because there's, 4 or 5 of you on a team and you're all going to be working on a lot of stuff. So I've got an old version of main right now. And I may or may not know that. And this is just kind of a normal part of the flow. And, I don't want to have to stop and not do any work until you have to coordinate sometimes. And that's what the exercise is about. But let's just make this up and we'll just call this I'll just call it Adams branch conflicts. And I'm gonna open up at PY. And let's say I'm gonna do something that's like very explicitly going to cause a conflict. I'm going to rename this all students as well. And let's say I rename it to all I don't know, all active students. And let's say I change some other stuff as well. Let's say that this becomes first name. And then I'm adding in a last name as well, because it's time for us to do that. And actually, does anyone remember Hermione's or Ron's last name?
Ron Weasley.
Hermione
Yes,
Granger.
I was about to say Granger, that prompted it. Awesome. Thank you. So I'm not 100%, but I think that'll cause a conflict as well, because name changed to first name. Sean, thank you. Yes, Ron Burgundy has a starring role, though he should have a starring role in Harry Potter. That would be a blast. So I'm making a feature change here, right? First name, last name, and then this becomes first name, and this becomes last name. And I think that's really it. That should do it. Fingers crossed we'll get a conflict. Remember, I'm on my feature branch. I'm gonna remove yeah, I'm gonna remove the .env directory just so it's not confusing us when we're typing git status and stuff right now. I'm on my feature branch. I'm going to add the changes that I made. And I'll add a commit message. And I did a lot of stuff here, so students now have first last names, changed name to first name, added last name. Okay, awesome. Now there's actually a lot more work I want to do, but I know that a good part of like team development workflow is I need to merge main in from time to time, otherwise I'll have conflicts. So I'm going to check out main. I'm going to pull it. I'm going to hop back to my branch. So I'm on Adam's branch conflicts. I'm about to merge main onto my feature branch, because remember, we want to resolve conflicts on our feature branches and keep the main branch clean and always in a good state. So fingers crossed, we have some conflicts. And perfect. Merge conflicts. Right? And the command I ran there was git merge main. In the language of Git, the base branch of that merge is Adam's conflict branch, my feature branch, right? We're pulling in changes from main onto my feature branch, and I'm resolving them here. And I just want to check in if folks have any questions before we kind of take the next step. And how many people have or have not seen this before? Maybe let me get a hand up if you have seen this. So a decent number of folks, definitely not everyone. We've done this a little, not a ton.
I have a question.
Oh yeah, what's up, Clarice?
So if we're, I guess, uploading our changes, are we immediately doing the merge then? Or are we just like, would it be just pushed to the branch that we have?
Do you mean like, uh, can you ask it again, please?
I guess like in my mind, the merging is a separate thing than just a regular push. Like if you have different branches, I'm thinking this branch is doing its own thing and I'm pushing my results to this branch. But if I want to merge, then that pushes it into the main branch. And it feels like we're
Ah,
merging the branch immediately after we pushed our changes.
got it. Yeah, I think I see what you're saying. Let me go ahead and draw a couple circles here. And move over here. So you actually raise a really good point.
Are you making a Git diagram?
No, not even.
Okay.
I know. I was like, I'm not sure if I should use the
I was literally connecting the dots.
yes. The dots are connected. Yeah, I shouldn't have used circles. These are not commits. But let's call this, I'm just gonna give these names, and I'm gonna call this my local repo Adams conflict branch. And I'll put this on 2 lines to help visually illustrate. I'll get rid of that annoying dot if I don't know if it will let me. Yeah, Clarice, you raise a really good point about sort of the workflow of all this, and there's kind of 4 things going on here. So there's 2 things I've got to think about on my repo. The 2 different branches that I'm working with, Adams conflict branch and main. And we're actually doing a merge just on my local machine. I'm going to merge main onto Adams conflict branch. And in fact, right now, Adams conflict branch doesn't even exist on GitHub because I've never done that very first push, right? I've done a commit, but that commit only is living on my local repo right now because I haven't pushed it up yet. Dakota did his work. He pushed it to GitHub. He made some commits. I think I did just in VS Code do a git pull. Oh yeah, because we're already in the merge conflict. So I already, right, I checked out main on my local repo. I did git pull to get whatever Dakota did up on GitHub there. And now I'm doing git merge on my local repo from that main onto Adams conflict branch. And the goal here is, and because you almost always end up needing to like fix conflicts on your local repo because you want to be able to use VS Code. You can kind of try and deal with merge conflicts with the GitHub user interface. It is a pain, and it's just not recommended unless it's really, really simple. So really our goal is to get everything onto my local repo, onto Adam's conflict branch. Clarice, I don't know if this helps kind of like illustrate the flow a bit and address the question that you raised, or if I went off on like a different track there.
Oh no, that explains it because I was thinking you're pushing it to your remote branch and then trying to merge it with the main remotely.
Yeah, totally. No, it's confusing. Like, because there really are 4 different things to keep track of here. That was a really good question. And it raises a really good point. Really our goal is like my local repo is where all the work happens, right? It's where I write the code. It's where like I want to that's where I want to like kind of merge main onto my feature branch. So, I got to get the new version of main and whatever commits were added there from GitHub, but then I merge it onto my feature branch of my machine. And then if there are conflicts there, I deal with it, I fix it, I can use VS Code, I can use all the tools I have at my disposal. And then when everything is nice and clean and organized, I push it up to GitHub. And then, Clarice, we absolutely are going to do that merge that you were saying in a bit. And in fact, this is what we saw Dakota do just a little while ago with his branch, where on the repo and GitHub, we're merging the feature branch. But our goal is that we've fixed all the conflicts by the time this happens. That's the big picture goal, because again, we want to keep the main branch really like clean and organized, because everyone else is using it, and that's the one we use to like send into production on AWS or whatever. So that's really the goal, that when we get to the point when we're merging up on GitHub, and you kind of saw that happening with that pull request, all the potential conflicts have been fixed. And I just want to, yeah, great question. And I'm curious if folks have any other questions or are curious about things. Okay, awesome. And this is in TL draw, but I'll screenshot it just as a little backup. So merge conflicts, the fun stuff. So first and foremost, really your goal is to avoid these. And in fact, how do merge conflicts happen? Let me just, I'm gonna kind of roll this out, but I'd love a couple thoughts from people before I start typing stuff. Like, what are kind of the things that might cause merge conflicts?
Two local machines working on the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. Two people touching the same line of code. Really, two people touching the same file. Like, just, you don't know always what you have to touch if you're working in a file. So trying to not have two people work on the same file at the same time is like one of these big organizing principles. Two people touching the same. Actually, let me rephrase this. One person modifying a class or function, the other person using it. Dakota might change a class, the student's class, he might change the properties, he might change the name of a method on that class. I might not be changing that class, but I might be working on a feature where I'm using that class. And so then if that changes, that may or may not cause a conflict, right? So the exercise that you all are going to do a bit later, I've broken the tasks out where the goal is honestly to force you all to communicate, but they are designed to avoid conflicts. And it's things like, one person maybe doing a model and someone else working on front end stuff and someone else doing a different model. And the exercise today honestly breaks it up a bit more finely than happens in the real world. Because in some ways, the easiest thing is, all right, Dakota, your job is to write the whole backend feature for showing professors in the student app, the model, the serializer, and all that. And my job is to do the front end, right? Because there's not going to be any conflicts. We just need to, Dakota needs to tell me the API endpoints and maybe give me some fake data. I've broken it up a bit more finely, kind of for practice purposes, but things like that are kind of what we can do to avoid merge conflicts, because by far that's the best and easiest thing. And then the goal is, if they do happen, to have them be simple. Merge conflicts are notoriously hard to read. what is actually happening here is Git has actually modified our text. Like all this stuff in blue really is text here. Like I can, well, I'm not sure if VS Code is letting me because VS Code tries to get really fancy. There we go. Like I could delete that. You probably don't want to. If I go ahead and type git status, so Git is telling me I have unmerged paths, fix conflicts, and run git commit. This is sort of your safety, like your escape valve here. Git merge space dash dash abort, aborts the commit, blows away all this stuff. Whatever your last commit on this branch was is what it goes back to. So that's so even if I screw something up here, I can run git merge abort and all my commits are still good. Once I fixed these, I need to do kind of like it's telling me here, I need to do git add for each file. And then I can run git commit. But this kind of merge editor tool will help with that. So under the hood, this is all text. And I'm not going to get too deep into this, but you can see that head point, and this is why I wanted to talk about it a little bit yesterday, pointing to like the most recent commit, right? These dashes and then VS Code using the colors is telling me these are my changes on my branch. Incoming is the word for the thing I'm merging in. Here are Dakota's changes. And then we can see it again here. I'm not honestly, oh, it's again the naming that's breaking things. And note that Dakota's print statement does not cause a merge conflict, right? Because he added that and I didn't do anything there. So that's totally fine. And Git can figure that out. It goes back in time to our shared common source before we both branched off and says, cool, this can be added there. And that's good because I can get all the awesome features that Dakota did add. And the first name, last name stuff actually didn't cause a conflict. And note, Git is pretty clever. It's noting my changes here, first name, last name, and Dakota's changes. Though actually the tricky bit here is if I accept Dakota's changes, it's not just the name, it's my other changes here as well. And this is where these things can get a little tricky, because what if we want Dakota's name, but we want my first name, last name stuff? That's a really good example of how this stuff can get a little tricky. The good news here is you don't have to you absolutely can modify code by hand, but you don't have to. VS Code gives you accept current change, accept incoming change. So I could accept all my code or accept just Dakota's code or tell Git to keep them both. And I can do that for each of the conflicts. But even better is the VS Code merge editor. And if you do have a merge conflict, even though this is a bit crazy to look at, I think this is probably the way to go. Because what this does is on the left, I've got Dakota's stuff, which is called the incoming. And I know this is a bit confusing. And again, really the goal is to avoid merge conflicts. By far the best way to do that is communicating. There's no way around that. So if there's anything that comes out of this morning, hopefully it is a lot of communicating in the group project. And that's really the goal of this. But so here I can see this a bit better. Again, I have these options to accept Dakota's incoming changes to my branch. A combination, which is a little dangerous, or ignore, and I can do it line by line. What I have over here that's kind of nice is a preview of the outcome. So as I maybe change each of these, this will change. If I want to go nuts, I can do what's called showing the base. And this is actually how well, it's not quite how I'm used to seeing this. but the base here in the middle is the commit from the main branch before Dakota's in my work. This is like our last common point of reference. And you know, I don't know if it helps or hurts, to be honest, to see that, but it can be useful. So I have a choice to make here, right? I either have to accept Dakota's variable name, or I have to accept my changes. Because it's going to be a little hard to do a little bit of each. And since each of these conflicts is about the variable name, I can't kind of pick and choose. I'm not sure if Git is clever enough. Let's see what happens if I try accept combination. Actually, I'm not going to do accept combination because I'm going to show you guys just a nice little hack. Let's say I want my first name, last name changes, and I want Dakota's name change. Well, in this case, the easiest thing to do is accept my stuff. Let's see if the combination does it. There's two roads really. We try the combination, or I accept my stuff and manually make a change. And actually, I think that's what I am going to demo. And so we can see over here in the result that now I've accepted my code. I can also edit this code. And in fact, that's what I'm going to do right now, is I'm just going to manually rename it to all the students. And now I have the best of both worlds. I'm pretty sure accept combination would have done that, but I wanted to demonstrate that specific technique. I'm going to hit complete the merge. Now the most important thing is to look at my code and run it and make sure there are no bugs. But the merge conflict should be resolved. If I type git status, all conflicts fixed, but you are still merging, use git commit to conclude merge. If you need to say something in this commit message, you can. Otherwise, just having it be the merge is fine. And now I'm in a good spot. And so to jump back to our diagram, and the point that you raised earlier, Clarice, if I can get rid of this red slash, which I may not be able to. There we go. Now I'm going to push my branch up to main. And now we should be able to have a clean merge on GitHub of my branch onto main with no conflicts. So let's see if that happens. And I have to do the set upstream because I haven't done this yet. And now if I go over to the repo, compare and pull request, right? The base now, right on my laptop, the base was my conflict branch. We went from main into my branch. On GitHub, we're doing the opposite. And this message able to merge says there are no conflicts. So I'm going to create the pull request and request a review from Dakota. You should always loop in the other person involved with the code if you're fixing a merge conflict with their code, because it could be I missed something important that they added, you know? So that's just a really good habit. And then when Dakota gives me the thumbs up, I can approve it. And we can see we have the best of both worlds here with both our changes. So this is a good stopping point, and I know we went a bit over the hour, and so it's a good time, I think, to take a bit of a longer break, and then we'll do a group exercise where, again, hopefully you won't have merge conflicts, but now if you do, you know how to see it, and the TAs and I will be around to help. And really the goal is coordination. So I just want to pause and check in and see what's on people's minds and what questions folks have. And how are people feeling about merge conflicts, especially if you haven't seen them before? Because I know it's a bit of a new world. Like amazing, so, kind of where are we on a scale of 1 to 100? I think you're muted, Chad.
Let's see, like probably like around, I don't know, about 10. Sorry.
Yeah. Merge conflicts are notoriously tricky. I think they are by far one of the more challenging bits of being a junior developer. They are also by far the thing where like that's when you want to start getting help from other people on the team, especially as a junior dev from more senior engineers. So it is absolutely normal to feel like this is a lot. It is a lot. The important thing is to avoid them. And the best way to do that is merge from main to your feature branch a lot and communicate with each other. And remember with the merge conflict, you can always use that git merge dash dash abort to blow stuff away. Sometimes you might have to like back up and take a different strategy. Like maybe I need to wait before I merge that feature, or maybe I need to write some other code or sort of find a way to maneuver around it. The best way to avoid it is sequencing, and that's kind of what the exercise is for. What questions, if any, do folks have? Cool. Should we do, how does 15 minutes sound? Awesome. Yeah, let's take 15, get up, take a break, stretch and move around. Just in fact, just yeah, let's do 15. We'll come back at 10:30, and then we'll work in teams on an assignment and see how far I get. And Dakota, thank you so much. That was awesome.
Yeah, no problem. You're welcome.
All right, have a good break and see you all in 15.